Look, me and bro might hop out the 4x4. We don't care about law with a mask and gloves. Young bad boys with the realest ones. Got the bad beast showing the whole gang love. Got more drinks than a bartender. G, I can't render when the vodka does. No sleep, fuck up the rave right now. Got the girls all round trying to feel this buzz. Yo, got the girls all round trying to feel this wave. Never looked back when I saw that grave. No face, no case if you felt that brave. I can't lack so I don't take train. And I can't see broke and you feel this pain. No stand up and I laughing one till I laugh with my back that passed in vain. And the whole gang fly like a paper plane. She loves the way I make her feel. Told bro step on the gas, I lay. Blue lights at the back of the car, no way. But she loves the thrill. You don't know me, but you know my face.
So this week's UFC card headlined by Corey Sandhagen and Davison Figueiredo. And so that I've actually got time to research the fights this week, it's Monday morning and I've brought the dogs to a dog park because I've got 2 Shiba Inus. And they're like mini huskies, so they've got a lot of energy. If you don't bring them to a dog park like this a few times a week, they're an absolute nightmare. I'll be sat at my desk trying to work and they'll just be jumping up on me every 2 seconds wanting to play. So Monday morning, start the week off right, we always bring them to a dog park so that I can actually get some work done. I can go back home now, they'll sleep all day, and then I can just sit at the computer researching fights. But I have already researched a few fights, and that's what we're going to be going through right now. So the first fight that we're going to talk about is the main event, Corey Sandhagen against Davison Figueiredo. If you look at the odds, Sandhagen is a huge favourite, and we already know how this one's likely to go. At this stage in their careers, to be honest, probably at any stage in their careers, Sandhagen significantly better than Davison Figueiredo in every single aspect of MMA. Figueiredo probably has more power. They say power is the last thing to go. Figueiredo's in his late 30s, but Sandhagen has shown over time how tough, how durable he is. We've seen him face heavy hitters like Yadong Song, and never really seen Sandhagen hurt too bad on the feet. So this is one of those fights where, even though most of the time, because MMA is a chaotic sport, when we have big favourites in fights, I would say just go dog or pass. This is one of those rare situations where I wouldn't. I actually think Sandhagen wins this fight a super high percentage of the time, and even at his current odds range, there might be a little bit of value there. So if the fight stays standing, I think Sandhagen's going to use his length just to chip away at Figueiredo. Figueiredo will be loading up on those big singular power shots, but he's not going to be able to hurt Sandhagen too much on the feet. Sandhagen's going to be able to outstrike him by a wide margin, and then the size difference between these two is enormous. Even one of the best MMA grapplers in the history of the 135-pound division, Umar Nurmagomedov, couldn't take Sandhagen down and control him. So I very much doubt that a blown-up flyweight in Davison Figueiredo with a questionable gas tank will be able to cause Sandhagen any issues with grappling either. So this weekend, I like Sandhagen a lot. I think he's going to win very easily. Now the next fight is going to be the co-main event between Reinier de Ridder and Bo Nickel. Now this fight's a really good example of how wiki capping and recency bias can have an influence on the odds, because before their last fights, before de Ridder fought Kevin Holland and before Bo Nickel fought Paul Craig, Bo Nickel probably would have been one of the biggest favourites in UFC history in this fight, because you've got a guy with an illustrious career in collegiate wrestling facing quite a low-level grappler in Reinier de Ridder. Now, I know there will be a bunch of people jump in the comments telling me I'm wrong about de Ridder. He's this, he's that, he's done this in one, he submitted this guy. I don't really care. In terms of MMA grappling, Bo Nickel is in a whole other level. And I think, again, this is one of those very rare examples. We've got a decent amount of value in the big favourite here. Nickel should be a far bigger favourite. I think he is better than de Ridder everywhere. Better cardio, better striking. Millions of light years above de Ridder when it comes to grappling. It ain't even fucking close. So if Bo Nickel grapples in this fight, de Ridder is in a lot of trouble. Recency bias and their last performances are having an influence on the odds here. Nickel took a lot of criticism for a very lacklustre fight, a very lacklustre performance against Paul Craig. De Ridder had that exciting submission of Holland, but when everything normalises in a normal, logical world, Nickel takes de Ridder down and does whatever he wants to him on the ground. It is a very, very, very good stylistic matchup for Bo Nickel. I'll probably be betting him in some capacity this weekend. The third fight that we're going to talk about in the dog park, I don't even know where my dogs have gone. There's one, there's two coming up behind me. Third fight I want to talk about is going to be Miesha Tate against Yana Santos. Now, this is the battle of the mama bears. Both Miesha Tate, Yana Santos took a little bit of time off to go have children, and now they're back. And obviously, both girls, you know, are at that stage in their careers where you would expect them to be declining from fight to fight. We've seen big declines in Miesha Tate, and she's a little bit older than Yana Santos now. She's in her late 30s. What's interesting about Yana Santos is that she's a bit of an outlier. So most women, after they have a baby and they come back to MMA, they do decline significantly because obviously their body changes forever. Sometimes if they're younger, like a Mackenzie Dern, they can kind of get things back on track after a little while, and you know, it doesn't really affect them too much. But for women in their mid to late 30s like Miesha Tate, Yana Santos, it gets hard. Santos is an outlier because she's actually improved a lot since having a baby. She's been working really hard at American Top Team, and so Tate is facing the best version of Yana Santos that has ever existed. However, the biggest issue with Yana Santos throughout her career has been her takedown defense and ground game. She's quite easy to take down, very weak off her back. If you want to see what I'm talking about, go check out her fight against Holly Holm. And if you look at Miesha Tate's recent performances, the things that enabled Tate to build such a successful career in MMA, dating right back to her Strikeforce days, 3 huge qualities. Toughness, Tate is tough as hell, cardio for days, and good offensive wrestling. And even though Tate is declining, she still has those 3 qualities, which makes her a very tough stylistic matchup for Yana Santos, because I don't think Santos has the takedown defense to keep this fight standing. I think Tate will get her down. When she gets her down, I think she'll control her pretty easily. And so even though I don't like the idea of betting on fighters in their late 30s, I think this is a great stylistic matchup for Tate. I think she's probably going to win. And in the even money odds range, yeah, I think she's a pretty good bet this weekend. I mean, I'm recording this on Monday when the odds are in the even money odds range. By the end of the week, their odds might have declined. But right now, as it stands, on Monday, out in the dog park with the doggies, Miesha Tate, I think, is a decent bet. We've got a big game in the Champions League tonight, semi-final game between Arsenal and Paris Saint-Germain. And I'm thinking of betting something on this game. I've got a pre-game bet in mind, but I want to run it past my dad first. My dad knows more about football than anyone I've ever met, and you can also trust him to be brutally honest with you. So we're going to go see him, see what he thinks about the bet, get his opinion, his reaction. And there's also a bet I'm thinking of placing on Thursday's game between Tottenham Hotspur and Bodo Glimt. So we'll see what he says about that one too. And depending on what he says, if I do end up betting these games, I will write articles about them on X. So if you're not following me on X, follow me. There'll be a link in the description below, and then you can get access to all the football bets that I post on there. I really like these 2 bets for this week, so I'm hoping he does as well. We'll see what he says. And yeah, hopefully we can make some money this week. Hey, what's up, dude? What's up? What's up, mate? You okay? What's up, dude? Buddy, what's going on, dude? You okay?
Why?
Buddy, you alright, dude?
Yeah,
Buddy, what's going on, mate?
You've been sleeping. Right, what bet is it?
So the bet that I'm thinking about going for tomorrow, so the odds are evens, and I do like both teams to score in the Arsenal PSG game. What do you think?
Yeah, I'd go for both teams to
You
score.
like that? It's about evens, the odds, just under. Something like that. So for every £100 you bet, you get £75 back, so just under evens.
Yeah, but you get your 100 back with it.
Yeah. What do you think, man?
Both sides to score?
Yeah. Because I was thinking, when you look at how aggressive PSG have been away in the Champions League brass,
Yeah, I
they
think
scored 7.
Well, otherwise,
Villa, Liverpool.
Villa troubled them though.
Yeah, but how many chances did PSG have at
Oh,
Villa?
they had a lot, but so
Yeah.
did Villa, Chris.
Yeah. I was just thinking, PSG, they're not the type of team to sit, are they?
Oh, they'll go for it.
Yeah,
They
they'll go
won't
for it big
defend.
time.
No.
So I was thinking Kvaratskhelia up front, you got Dembele.
Yeah, you would have both sides to score. I don't see Arsenal keeping them out. Well, they are good at keeping sides out, the Arsenal mind.
Yeah.
But then I've seen the highlights of Real Madrid. They had chances and all.
And they didn't really go for it either.
Well, Mbappe should have buried that one before Arsenal scored.
Yeah. So both teams to score, you alright with that?
Yeah, I would. I just thought that's a good shot. Both sides to score.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like to saw both sides. I don't know much about this Bodo Glimp, but
Yeah.
I couldn't see Spurs keeping a clean sheet, man.
I was thinking they're quite similar to AZ. Remember when they played AZ? How many chances they had at Spurs?
You can have as many chances you want, you got to take them.
I know, we've seen that.
And then they go to Frankfurt and win 1-0.
Mate.
What's that guy's name?
What's
that?
Etikike.
It's a freaking nightmare. He scores a lot of goals.
Yeah, I did have a winner on Frankfurt on the weekend.
Did you?
Yeah.
So what's...
You know, but both teams score. You don't know much about Bodo Glimt, that's all good. If you're happy with the Arsenal one, that's good. I think that'll hit on it, bud. Dembele, Kvaratskhelia, Dewey, Barcola.
I think those, they more likely score, but I wouldn't like to call who wins the 2 games though.
No.
Out of the...
I wouldn't bet that.
You wouldn't?
No. Yeah, so those are the bets for this week. Hopefully we can make some money. Hopefully we can win
So
them.
the Bodo Glimt Spurs, both teams to score.
Yeah.
Slowed down.
Purely because...
And Arsenal PSG, both teams to score.
Yeah, Bodo are just deadly on the counter. They create loads of chances, but they have got defenders out injured. But I think that makes it even more likely they'll score because they won't be able to sit.
So there's one, yes.
Well,
they scored first, Spurs.
Yeah.
Solanke, 12 minutes.
Yeah. That didn't work out well, did it, bud? I think I'm going to go for both of those bets. I've got a really high win rate on bets like this. The way I look at it, Bodo Glimt, they've got a few defenders out injured, a few key defenders out injured, quite a few key defenders out injured. I think 3 of their starting back line are out injured, but if anything, that should make them even more aggressive in the attack because they can't afford to sit deep with a weakened back line or Spurs are going to overrun them. Spurs will absolutely murder them. In fact, Spurs might still murder them, but you'd think they'd push on. You know, try to score, play in a similar sort of way to how they did in Rome against Lazio. Be very aggressive on the counter. And Bodo they create so many chances away from home. They're so dangerous on the counter with how weak Spurs are defensively. I think pretty good chance they're going to grab at least 1 goal. And so, yeah, quite like that bet. Like Arsenal, PSG, both teams to score even more. Hopefully we can make some money this week. And like I say, follow me on X. Dad approves. Dad's a legend, knows a lot about football. So trust his judgment. So almost back to the car now, and just before we get to the drive back, thought we could talk about a fight that I did research this morning before going to see my dad, and that is Gillian Robertson versus Marina Rodriguez. So this is an interesting fight, obviously striker versus grappler matchup. And a really good stylistic matchup for Robertson. Obviously, her odds reflect that. She's a pretty big favourite. So we know throughout Marina Rodriguez's career, her biggest weakness has been her takedown offence and her ground game. She's the type of fighter, if you take her down, she's very weak off her back. She'll kind of just lie on her back, not make too much of an effort to get back up to her feet. And Robertson's obviously got great grappling control, heavy top game. You know, really good MMA grappler. So difficult stylistic matchup for Rodriguez, and with her being in her late 30s, I don't think we're going to see any massive improvement in her takedown defense and ground game. Because the way I would look at it is, you know, if Rodriguez has gone her whole career and she's still this bad, why would she suddenly improve now in her late 30s? Doesn't mean it can't happen, just unlikely. So even as a big favourite, I quite like Robertson in this fight. I think she's very likely to win. And like I say, I don't like to bet big favourites in MMA very often. I think I might find a way to bet on Robertson this week. Parlay her with something, do something creative. We'll see how it goes. Just taking the dogs out for a walk, and I thought this would be a good opportunity to break down another fight. So we're going to be talking about Montel Jackson against Daniel Marcos. Now, when I first saw the odds for this card, Marcos was one of the first names that jumped out at me as a potential bet, because from memory, Jackson was a little bit passive, a little bit tentative, didn't have the best fight IQ. And I thought Marcos, a high volume striker, he's aggressive, he's difficult to take down. perhaps this could be a good opportunity to take a shot on a risky underdog, but an underdog with pretty good value. Unfortunately, after researching the fight, I didn't like it anywhere near as much as I thought I would. Now, it's difficult to predict what we'll see this weekend in this matchup, because if you look at Montel Jackson's record, he's been very inactive over the last few years, so we haven't seen a lot of him since 2022. His fights since 2022 have either been very one-sided or ended kind of quick. So we don't know where Jackson is at. Marcos, though, is an interesting one, because I do feel he's gone backward a little bit. When he first came into the UFC, he was aggressive, high-volume striker, great leg kicks, but he starts to slow down quite a bit now as fights progress, which was something we didn't see from him in his early fights. So this is an interesting matchup. I wouldn't trust Montel Jackson as a big favourite. He's too passive, he's too tentative, his fight IQ's not the best. Go watch the Brett Johns fight to see what I mean. But at the same time, because Marcos has a tendency to gas, we know Montel Jackson's a very high-level wrestler, so if he came in with a grappling-heavy game plan, he could probably cause Marcos big problems. And we know Jackson's got big power as well. So this is one of those fights that I don't love either guy. I don't love Jackson because I can't trust him as a big favourite. And I don't love Marcos because he slows in fights. Can't match the power of Jackson, can't match the wrestling. And yeah, tough fight to call this one. I'm home now, looking forward to the Arsenal PSG Champions League game that'll be starting soon. But about 40 minutes ago, I placed a live bet in the Asian Champions League, an Asian handicap bet on Al Ahly to basically win the Champions League semi-final against Al Hilal when they were already winning 1-0. And so this bet was looking great. Al Ahly scored a second goal soon after I bet them. But our money's in an even stronger position now, because Koulibaly, who, if you're familiar with football, you'll know at one point was one of the best centre-backs in Europe, he's just been sent off for Al Hilal for 2 absolutely horrendous challenges. Let me show you these challenges. Guys, take a look at Koulibaly's challenge here. It's absolutely horrendous. I mean, that's the type of stuff you see in ice hockey. He totally takes Ivan Toney out. Disgraceful challenge. You can see Milinkovic-Savic thought he was going to be sent off. And then if that tackle wasn't bad enough, take a look at this one for the second yellow. This one is crazy too. Taking his sweet ass time to go off. Ibanez wins the ball in midfield, powers forward, and again, similar to when he took out Ivan Toney for a yellow card just before half time, he takes out Ibanez as well. So clear red card. I don't know what Koulibaly is complaining about. But you know what that means? That means our money is in a very strong position now, because Al Hilal down to 10 men and Al Ahly should get this win, which means we will kick the day off with a profit if the scoreline stays the same or if Al Ahly can score again. Boys, we did it. Al Ahly just scored the 3rd goal, and that's it. We kicked the day off with a profit. I don't know why they let Kessier take the penalty. Obviously, I was saying Ivan Toney's never missed a penalty. Well, I've never seen him miss the penalty. But doesn't matter. In the end, they score a 3rd in injury time. And that is going to enable us to kick the day off with a win. This is a good opportunity for us to break down another fight. So, why don't we talk about the fight between Santiago Ponzinibbio and Daniel Rodriguez. So obviously both these guys are on a pretty steep decline. Their better days are behind them. And it's fair to say that at this stage in their careers, they're going to be continuing the decline. So you don't really know how either guy is going to show up and look this weekend, because they could look a lot worse than just their last fight. What I would say about this fight is Ponzinibbio, from a technical point of view, hasn't declined as much as Daniel Rodriguez. Rodriguez is quite flat, quite sloppy these days. He, his volume's dropped, his reflexes look off, he's not as sharp as he used to be. But Rodriguez still has a decent amount of durability, which is somewhere, or an area, that Ponzinibbio lacks. Ponzinibbio can't take a shot these days. We saw him get wobbled multiple times in his last fight against Carlston Harris. We've seen him get rocked, wobbled, dropped multiple times in some of his recent fights. And even though Rodriguez has never been the biggest power puncher, when Pons is as fragile as he is these days, I feel like you don't need to be the biggest power puncher to make Pons pay. So this is one of those fights where I either think we're going to see Ponzinibbio win by decision or Rodriguez wins inside the distance, because Pons has better technique than Rodriguez, throws a much higher volume of strikes, but you just can't trust his chin these days. So my lean on this one is tough. These odds are in the even money odds range. I think the odds are where they should be. It's 50-50, could go either way. Don't really have a strong opinion on this fight. But if you're betting this fight, good luck, and let me know who you think is going to win in the comments below. That started as a good day and ended up really, really frustrating. Hit a nice winner on Al Ahly earlier on, and then just gave the profit straight back on both teams. Just got Arsenal. Arsenal were dreadful. And what's most frustrating about taking losses like this is how I felt all season like Arsenal just lacked the firepower up front, the quality up front to really hurt the top teams in Europe. And that was one of the reasons why I bet heavily against Arsenal when they played Real Madrid in the last round. Real Madrid didn't show up. Arsenal obviously went through. They cost me a lot of money. And so Paris Saint-Germain very rarely keep clean sheets away from home. I thought Arsenal bound to score at home. PSG always score away from home. We spoke about the reasons why both teams to score is a good bet in this game. And when Paris Saint-Germain score 3 minutes in, you bet your house on Arsenal scoring at least once. Crazy that Arsenal haven't scored at home in the first leg of a Champions League semi-final, but they were dreadful. So we hit a winner on Al Ahly, gave the profit straight back on both teams to score. Arsenal, PSG, just very frustrating. Let's talk about a couple more UFC fights. So the first fight that we're going to talk about is going to be Cameron Smotherman versus Sergey Sidey. So this is an interesting matchup. Should be a stand-up fight. Neither of these guys ever try to take their opponents down that often, but they're both strikers with two very different styles. So Cameron Smotherman is one of these fighters who's a very good boxer, has more power than Sidey, and he's a better boxer than Sidey as well. Sidey has a base in Muay Thai, but predominantly his style of striking is kicks based. So he's got nice elbows, nice kicks, but his boxing's not the best. Sidey's boxing defense also isn't the best, and he does tend to take a lot of damage on the feet. But he's very tough. He's got the cardio to go hard for 3 rounds. Sidey's going to be a tough fight for anyone just because of how dogged, gritty and determined he is. So if we look at their past fights and we're trying to predict how both these match up from a stylistic point of view, Smotherman is the better boxer out of the two. He has more power in his hands than Sidey. But Sidey is very mean, very nasty, very aggressive. And we know Sidey is battle tested. He's been in some wars, took loads of damage against Ramon Tavares, hung in there, kept coming forward. Tough guy. For me, Cameron Smotherman is unproven. He's not battle tested. We don't know how Smotherman is going to react if Sidey drags him into a war. So it's a tough fight to call because for me, technically, Smotherman is the better fighter. But we don't know a lot about his toughness. We don't know a lot about his cardio. Whereas we do know Sidey is tough as nails, has cardio for days. So this is a tough one to call. Another fight in that even money odds range. Sidey obviously the slight favourite. And I'm finding it really difficult. I will lean towards Smotherman because he hasn't given us any reason to doubt his cardio. Sidey does take a lot of damage in fights, but this is a tough one. Smotherman's very unproven. I wouldn't bet this fight if I were you personally. The second fight we're going to break down is going to be Mason Jones against Jeremy Stephens. When I first saw the odds for this fight, Jeremy Stephens was one of the first names that jumped out at me as a potential bet because he's a huge underdog, and from memory, Mason Jones didn't have the best fight IQ and was pretty bad when it comes to striking defense. He tended to take a lot of damage in his fights, and so I'm thinking to myself, this is Jeremy Stephens' homecoming. He's from Iowa. He's going to have home advantage on his side. He's going to have the crowd on his side. He's got big power, the kind of power that can make someone like Mason Jones pay. Seen Mason Jones take big shots from David Onama. Klein has hurt him really bad. Ludwig Klein inflicted a lot of damage on him, wobbled him a couple times. And they say power is the last thing to go. So even though Stephens is declining, he's in his late 30s, perhaps he's still got the takedown offense to keep the fight standing, the power to hurt Jones. Now I do think this is dog or pass just because Jones is too steep of a favourite to bet. There's no upside in betting Jones. However, Stephens has declined quite a bit. If you go back and watch, some of his recent fights in the PFL, some of his recent MMA fights, His takedown offense is very bad, very weak off his back. And even though Stevens probably does still have the advantage when it comes to striking, if Jones just starts to grapple, Stevens going to be in a lot of trouble. So this is dog or pass. If you want to bet this fight, I would take I would take Stevens or just pass. But at the same time, I don't see enough from Stevens to make me want to roll the dice on him as a big underdog. Late 30s, bad takedown offense, bad ground game. It's going to be declining. Mason Jones, young, hungry, up-and-coming bull. Don't want to put my money in danger on Stevens. And I'm really depressed, actually, now. A little bit pissed off. Very surprised Arsenal weren't able to score a goal. A bit demoralising. So I will be back tomorrow. I think we got some Chinese Premier League games in the morning. Hopefully we can bounce back on them. Also be dropping another bet on X. Hopefully we can make a profit tomorrow. Another day, another dollar. Night, guys. Hey, what's up, mate? How you doing?
Alright, how are you?
Mate, I told you I got no luck at the moment, mate. It's brutal.
I know, but they were fucking terrible, mate.
Dreadful, weren't they, mate?
Yeah, they got... I don't reckon this PSG side are all they made up to BC.
Do you know what pisses me off about that loss, though, dude?
What?
All the reasons that I bet on Real Madrid to qualify against Arsenal were present in last night's game. No firepower, no strength in depth, no quality up front.
Did you see the bench?
There's nothing there, mate.
There's nothing...
But the thing is, Arsenal didn't even create that many chances. What did they create in the last 20, 30 minutes?
Absolutely nothing.
Exactly, mate. And that's when they should have been going for it big time.
No pressure on the ball, they're bad.
Do you see the chances Barcola and Dewey missed late on?
I know.
So, I'm pissed
They
off.
said, Dembele's more likely out the second leg. What difference does that make?
Yeah, I know, mate.
It won't make no difference to them, mate.
No.
They brought down a proper centre forward at the end, they did. He hit the crossbar.
Yeah. So anyway, that just shows you, mate, I just getting no luck at the moment, bro. It's brutal.
But it'll change.
Yeah, I hope so. Well, it will. It always does change. It always turns
it always
around.
does, but it's one of them things. But the thing is, they got no firepower. So if they're going to go to PSG, the only way they're going to do anything over there is hit them on a break. Yeah.
And they haven't got really the pace to do it. Martinelli and Saka are alright.
Where's that coming from?
Yeah, through the middle, there's nothing.
Saka was either not fit or he didn't do as he was fucking... Oh, fuck me, there's about 14 phone calls now.
Mate, I'll leave you go.
I'll talk to you tonight, maybe.
Alright, no worries, mate.
Ta-ra, mate.
Ta-ra, mate, bye. I'm having a bad day today. It's one of those days where you wake up and it's just stress as soon as you open your eyes. Always kind of feel like this after ending the day on a loss. But betting's been going alright this week. I've had 3 bets so far. On Monday we won a bet on Lazio to win or draw against Parma. Yesterday we won a bet on Al Ahly to beat Al Hilal when they were already winning 1-0 in the AFC Champions League. And then we had the loser on the both teams to score bet in the Arsenal PSG game last night. Don't get me wrong. When I put bets out publicly and they lose, it does get me down. It does stress me out because I absolutely hate causing people to lose money. I hate it. So even though I'm in a little bit of profit this week, the 2 bets that I've won, obviously in my football betting group, they were live bets. Both of them were live bets. So doesn't change the fact that people that would have bet both teams to score on Arsenal PSG would have lost, and that just stresses me out. So hopefully we can get things back on track today. Do have another bet today. I've posted it on my X, which you can take a look at. Posted yesterday. If you go on X, I'll leave a link in the description below. Follow me on X. We're going for both teams to score in a CONCACAF Champions Cup game between Inter Miami, Vancouver Whitecaps. So hopefully that wins. It would get you back close to break even on the week if you only place the Arsenal PSG both teams to score a bet. But I'm also stressed out for another reason. Reason why I'm stressed out is because I've got a problem with my car. Quite an expensive problem to fix. It's going to cost about $6,500 to fix, actually. And the problem with the car is the fault was present when I bought the car. So UK trading law says that basically if there's a fault with a car before you buy it, it's basically the person who sold it to you's responsibility to fix the fault, to pay for the fault to be repaired. And the dealership that I bought the car from, they're called Auto 100. They're a huge dealer in the UK. They are refusing to pay for the fault, even though I've got proof from the main dealer. Porsche themselves have run a diagnostic report and said that the fault was present 6 months before I bought the car. The people I bought the car, the dealership, the business I bought the car from, still won't repair the goddamn car. So I'm just having to go back and forth, legal issues, going through court, all this type of shit. I just ain't got time for it. I want to be focused on researching fights, working hard to improve betting on football, trying to make some money. Should be focusing on productive things, not going round the houses back and forth on emails to a bunch of people that just basically aren't following trading law in the UK. So I'm not going to go into this in too much detail, make too much of a fuss, talk about this in too much detail now. Depending on how things play out in court, I might do a full-blown video on this just so that people can kind of see the troubles that I've had to face with this dealer. So then maybe they can avoid some problems themselves and having to go through all this. But maybe the dealer's right. ChatGPT, Skynet are telling me they're not. So we'll see what court says. But it's time to go pick my son up from school now, and we'll talk about some more fights on the way. I'm on the way to pick my son up from school now, and I thought this would be a really good opportunity to take my mind off all the stress that I'm going through and focus on things that make me happy, which is talking about UFC fights. And what really, 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 really makes me happy is that in my 10-year career, if you look at my X account, I think I created my X account back in 2013. I've been in this game a long time. What I'm really proud of, and what truly makes me happy, is that over the years I've been able to help so many people make money from betting on the UFC. And I've got messages, emails from people saying I've changed their lives. And when I'm having tough days like this, that's the kind of stuff that I keep in mind. That's the kind of stuff that drives me, keeps me going, you know what I mean? Just trying to turn a negative into a positive, just trying to help people. So hopefully that's what we can do with these quick breakdowns we're going to run through. And don't forget, if you want the more detailed breakdowns, you can find a more in-depth video on my YouTube channel for that, which I'm about to go back and record. So we're going to be talking right now about Ivana Petrovic and Juliana Miller. Now, when Miller first came into the UFC off the back of The Ultimate Fighter, there was a little bit of hype behind her, especially after her dominant win against Brogan Walker, but that was very quickly extinguished when she put in really poor performances against Veronica Hardy in particular. So we know that Ivana Petrovic is a big favourite in this fight. Straight out the gate, I really, really like Petrovic in this matchup. I know that she's got a couple of losses against relatively low-level opponents in Jamie Lynn Horth and Luana Carolina, so her odds may seem like quite a steep price to pay. However, when you actually look at those fights, Petrovic performed pretty well in both of them and is just levels and levels and levels above Juliana Miller. So even though the odds are very steep on Petrovic, I think she's very likely to win this fight and perhaps should be a bigger favourite. Perhaps she should be in that 1.20, minus 400, minus 500 kind of odds range. Maybe she should. And so we're just going to let Dan in a second. Hey Dan.
Hi.
How's your day been, mate?
It's alright.
Back to the breakdown. So, Petrovic, in my opinion, is significantly better than Juliana Miller in every single aspect of MMA. She is significantly better when it comes to striking, lands harder, more damaging, more impactful shots. She's more aggressive, she throws a higher volume. Miller is terribly defensively. But we know that Miller is primarily a grappler. That's what she had a lot of success on The Ultimate Fighter with. That's what she had a lot of success against Brogan Walker with. And we know that that will be her path to victory this weekend in her fight against Petrovic. Sorry, we're just pulling out a busy junction. Nice one, bro. Appreciate you. Thanks, mate. Nice one, dude. Cheers, mate. Just whip it around the back of this. Thank you. So yeah, we know Miller obviously has a base in grappling. Petrovic is the striker. And so this is one of those fights where if Petrovic can neutralise the threat of Miller's grappling, she should win very easily. And based on her past fights, I believe she can. If you go and watch her last 2 fights in particular, you'll see decent defensive wrestling from Petrovic. She's difficult to take down, difficult to hold down. She's good in the scramble. I think Petrovic wins this fight a very high percentage of the time. And if you're looking for a fighter to throw into your parlays this weekend, obviously do your own research as ever. I would strongly consider throwing Petrovic in. So I've been up for a few hours now and I am in a pretty bad mood. So I thought, you know what? I need to shake this off. We've got some football matches tonight and we need to be in control of our emotions. So when I'm live betting these football matches, I cannot afford to be stressed out. I need to chill out and relax. So I just dropped my son home and I'm coming out for a drive. Driving is a passion of mine. When I was just 18 years old and I first passed my driving test, I had like a very small car, didn't have much power or anything like that, and I would go out for hours by myself listening to music, driving around, cruising around, you know, going to the beach, driving up in the mountains. In Wales we're really blessed because you can go from the most beautiful of beaches to the most beautiful of forestry and mountain ranges within the space of like 20, 30, 40 minutes. So throughout my whole life, doesn't matter what car I've had, I've always spent a lot of time driving around. There's nothing better than just taking a car out on a mountain road, smashing it around. So I thought, what I'm going to do, I need to do something that makes me truly happy, shake off this bad mood I'm in. I'm going to go for a drive. So I'm going to go get a drink, then I'm going to go for a nice drive, and we're going to talk about a bunch of the remaining fights on this card. And hopefully by the time we're done, I'll be feeling a lot better and I'll be in a better mental space to live bet these football matches we've got coming up tonight. Alright, so decided to go for 10s in. I don't really like things like Monster Energy, Red Bull. They don't make me feel good. But it's actually really nice. Don't know if they'll sell it in your country. I think it's quite a niche brand. But it's like a natural energy drink. Vitamins, electrolytes, all that type of shit. They might actually be talking shit, actually. I might need to look into this company on ChatGPT, see if they're as legit as they say they are. But there's all the shit in it right there. We're going to have a little drinky drink. We're going to have a little drinky drink. We're going to go for a drive. And we will talk about some fights. First fight we're going to be talking about is going to be Thomas Peterson versus Dontel Mays. And this is a fight where I was very, very, very tempted to bet Mr. Peterson in some capacity, parlaying it up or in some other way. But I've decided against it. I've decided not to bet Mr. Peterson, even though I do think he wins a very high percentage of the time. And the reason why I've decided not to bet Mr. Peterson is because, as we saw with Michel Pereira last weekend, even though we can identify exactly how a fighter needs to perform in order for them to win, we can identify the game plan, the strategy they need to do to give them a really high probability of winning. Very often in UFC, fighters do not fight smart and they look completely different to how they do in past fights. And that is why it's difficult to make money betting on the UFC with pre-fight bets, and it gets harder every year. I do make a profit almost every year, but it's hard, and this is why my speciality is live betting, because in live betting you can avoid taking losses on guys like Michel Pereira, because you can see exactly what you're getting for your money before putting your money in any danger. And so Peterson, if his odds were better, if his odds were in that even money odds range that Michel Pereira was in, I would probably bet Peterson. But with him being around about, I don't know what his exact odds are right now, I think about 1.44 minus 227, it's just a steep price to pay. Because in order for him to win this fight, he's going to need to grapple. And we know that Dontel Mays has got bad takedown offense. He's very weak off his back. Mays is the kind of guy that if you take him down and put him on his back, he will just lie on his back doing absolutely nothing. So Peterson's a good offensive wrestler with a heavy top game, and in most of his career fights he does use grappling heavy game plans. The problem is, if you look at his UFC fights, he hasn't really grappled very much. Now that could be because he's fought guys that he felt he couldn't take down, you know, guys like Gaziev, guys like Mohamed Usman, guys like Jamal Pogues. These are all fundamentally grapplers, so they're not going to be easy to take down. They're not going to be as easy to take down as a guy, you know, like Dontel Mays, just a pure striker. But when you go and look at Peterson's fights before he came to the UFC, he used very aggressive grappling heavy game plans, and if he uses grappling heavy game plans in this fight, he should win very, very, very easily. So Peterson's very tempting because this should be an easy fight for him, but the loss on Michel Pereira last week is a cautionary tale that when it comes to pre-fight betting on the UFC, you just can't trust fighters. Very difficult. So you need to make sure you get a good risk to reward ratio in the odds, so that in those situations where fighters like Pereira don't show up and you take a loss because of it, all the bets that you win over the long term will far outweigh those situations where a fighter lets you down and the fight doesn't play out how you thought it would. So I'm going to pass on Peterson very reluctantly because I think he will win. So the next fight that we're going to talk about is Azamat Bekaev. Probably butchering the pronunciation of his name, I apologise. He's fighting Ryan Loder. I'm pretty sure I got that one right. And it's another Ultimate Fighter winner. On the same card, we got Juliana Miller, we've got Ryan Loder, and this is an interesting fight. Obviously Bekaev is a big favourite, and I would be surprised if he lost this, predominantly because of how predictable Loder's fighting style is and how passive Loder is as well. So Loder's one of these guys that has basically got no striking. He's just a pure wrestler, and so he doesn't really throw many strikes, doesn't really have any power in his hands. He's not at all dangerous on the feet, and because he doesn't have any striking, he doesn't have the striking to set his takedowns up. So even though he's a decent wrestler, doesn't really have the tools to set those takedowns up. And that's a big issue when you're facing a guy like Bekaev, who is also a decent wrestler. You know, in order to have success with grappling against a decent grappler like Bekaev, you've got to be bringing something to the table to set those takedowns up. It's going to be very difficult for Loder to just kind of avoid engaging on the feet and then hit takedowns out of nowhere from kickboxing range, because Bekaev is going to be expecting them and he's going to see them coming from an absolute mile away. So very tough fight for Loder. Bekaev did put in a poor performance a few years ago against Dylan Budka, a fight in which he just scraped past Budka via split decision, which is a huge red flag because we know how low level Budka is. But Bekaev, hard working, good offensive wrestling, good grappling control, better striking, higher output on the feet, and good enough cardio to grapple hard for 3 rounds. So with all that being said, Bekaev deserves to be a big favourite. I think he wins easily this weekend. I'd be very surprised if Loder were to win. So yeah, if you're going to bet this fight, the odds are a bit too steep on me to consider betting Bekaev in any way, but I certainly do not see enough in Loder to make me want to take a gamble on him. I'm just not interested. So the next fight that I want to talk about is going to be Gaston Bolaños versus Quang Le. Very interesting fight. In the context of how this matchup is likely to play out, we should view it as a classic striker versus grappler matchup, even though Quang Le isn't strictly a grappler. He's more of a well-rounded fighter, but with how he matches up with Bolaños, he's going to need to use grappling in order to win. So Bolaños the slight favourite, Quang Le the slight underdog. A lot of money is coming in on Quang Le. His odds have been bet right down this week, which I do find interesting. And this fight's all going to come down to whether Gaston Bolaños can keep the fight standing, and that's a difficult question to answer because Gaston Bolaños' takedown defense is not good. He does give up a lot of cheap takedowns. He can be quite easy to control on the ground. He's one of these guys that can't be trusted in grappling positions, but is also not totally terrible. He's not like a Dontel Mays that will just give up cheap takedowns and lie on his back. Like, Bolaños does actively try to defend takedowns and work his way back up to his feet. Just has a lot of issues and a lot of problems stopping people from taking him down. So Quang Lee has also got issues in the sense that he's not the best offensive wrestler. He doesn't have the best grappling control. So you've got a situation where we know Bolaños is going to have a huge advantage on the feet. We know Lee will have an advantage on the ground, but we don't know whether Lee's going to be able to use his grappling because his wrestling's not great, but then Bolaños' takedown offense ain't great. So we're in one of these situations where before the fight takes place, it's extremely difficult to predict how this one's going to play out and who's got the edge. It's a great fight for live betting. We did hit a very nice live bet on Gaston Bolaños in his last fight in the even money odds range. He came through for us. That was a nice profit. So I'm hoping that we can make a profit on this next fight, and hopefully Bolaños will once again enable us to earn a little bit of money, either by us betting against him or on him. I don't care. But the good news is we've got a lot of footage available on both guys, so when the fight does take place live, we're going to be able to hopefully get a pretty good read on how it's going to play out and hopefully profit from that. It's 3 a.m. We've just won our bet on both teams to score Inter Miami versus Vancouver Whitecaps. It's been a pretty slow week. I've placed 5 bets so far this week. 3 of them have been winners, 2 of them have been losers. They've all been in the even money odds range, so we're pretty much break even. So if you did tail the bets on Paris Saint-Germain, Arsenal, Inter Miami, Vancouver Whitecaps, both teams to score this week, both bets will post on my X account. You will be down slightly. You'll be 0.2 units down overall, but not the end of the world. And we were really unlucky that Arsenal, PSG, both teams to score a bet didn't win. So hopefully I could do better for you guys next week. And we've still got lots of games to bet this week. Tons of football coming up Friday, Saturday and Sunday. And of course, we've got a big UFC event this week. Davison Figueiredo, Corey Sandhagen headlining it. Hopefully we can have a good May. April, just a bad month for me overall. Didn't perform well on anything that I do. Had a lot of bad luck. What can you do? That's the way it is. That's the way sports betting goes sometimes. But I will work hard. And whenever I have a losing month, it just makes me more determined to bounce back even stronger. Which is why if you look at my profit chart over the long term, every time we have like a dip in anything, always bounce back strong. I've been doing that for over 10 years, so I'm confident we can do well in May. Obviously with what we do, a lot of the time is outside of our control. Luck does have an influence on our results, but the harder we work, the more volume we put in, the better chance we've got about working the bad luck sooner rather than later. So that'll be it. Oh shit, Vancouver just scored again. So anyway, with that, I'm signing off. I hope you liked this very first vlog. I'm going to try and do them regularly, maybe even every week if you guys like them. So if you do, please leave a comment below. Let me know what you think of them. And yeah, this is me signing off, giving you guys a little look into my life. Not really that exciting. I just sit in my pants watching football, researching fights all day. But yeah, haven't made money in April. Hopefully I can make some money in May. Hopefully I can bring you guys along with me on the journey and help you make a bit of cash too. So thank you very much for watching. Love you all. Take care. See you in the next one. Cheers. Bye.